Hello, I'm Jim Miller. Reggie and Terrence have the night off. The Flip Side starts right now. Welcome to the show. We're pleased to have with us tonight Chief of the Hagerstown Fire Department, John DiBacco.
Thank you.
Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
I did. Excellent. All right. Well, there's the first success story. So, John, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the fire business.
Yeah, sure. I started like many young boy wanting to be a firefighter when I grew up, and in the 70s I began my journey as a volunteer firefighter, and I got into EMT and paramedic at that time, and I was a volunteer for a number of years. I got my first career job as a firefighter paramedic in 1985 in West Virginia. In 1992, I moved to Norfolk, Virginia for the job as a firefighter paramedic with that department. I stayed there with 31 years.
Wow.
During my time there, I promoted through the ranks from firefighter, and I ended up being the fire chief. And I was the fire chief for 4 years with that department. I took a retirement, and the job in Hagerstown was being advertised, and my wife and I were interested in moving back towards this area. She's from Pennsylvania, I'm from West Virginia. So it was a good fit for us location-wise, and we couldn't be happier to be here. It's been a great move for us.
Well, clearly you love the job.
I do.
Or you wouldn't have come back after you retired. Talk to me about what you found in Hagerstown, just generally in the couple of years that you've been here. Why is Hagerstown, in your opinion, a great place to live?
Well, for the personal side, we really enjoy the climate, if you will, the seasons. We had the taste of snow, which we weren't getting in Southeast Virginia. The people are wonderful. Customer service is great. We're pleased with the medical care. And we love the area we live in. And so from personal side, we have that. When I was coming here, I did my homework on the fire department. I found that even though this is a smaller department, it's a combination department, paid and volunteer, they have a very strong reputation for their firefighting and service delivery. And looking at the department as a whole, that itself was attractive. And once I got here, I found that those things were true. And I'm very pleased with the department I took over 2 years ago.
Talk to me about the structure of Hagerstown Fire Department. I know people probably associate the fact that we have volunteers and paid people, but tell me how that works.
So Hagerstown Fire Department is a combination fire department. The fire department in Hagerstown has been around almost as long as the town. The first organized volunteers were in the late 1700s. In 1811, first Hagerstown Hose Company was formed. It's the oldest, it's still active. It's the oldest active fire company in Maryland. They're located on South Potomac Street. But we have 5 stations in Hagerstown, 5 fire stations. In those 5 stations, we have 6 volunteer fire companies who are represented, and Hagerstown City provides career staff in all those stations. So we have career firefighters on fire trucks in those stations. Of the 5 stations, the City of Hagerstown owns 1 station, and that is the Station 3 on Eastern Boulevard.
Okay. So from a growth and demographics perspective, in the short time that you've been here, I mean, there's a lot theoretically happening in Hagerstown. We've got a baseball stadium now. We've got the Maryland Theater that's just gone through some major upgrades. We've got new businesses moving downtown, Barbara Ingram School for the Arts, which predates you, but still, that's brought a lot of feet on the street in Hagerstown, and we're seeing a lot more development in Hagerstown. How has that impacted, how's that growth impacted Hagerstown Fire Department?
Well, it was interesting moving here with the downtown revitalization, if you will, the Renaissance. City of Norfolk went through the same thing in the 90s, built a downtown ballpark, new malls. They brought businesses in and residents and reinvigorated their downtown. And I see the same thing happening with downtown Hagerstown with the things you mentioned. What that does, it makes it for the fire service, obviously it increases our business, and that's understandable. But it also makes it an attractive place to work. People want to come to some place to work that's vibrant, that's busy, that has room to grow. Then with the city's annexation and growth outward, the corporate boundaries moving, We're bringing in new businesses. With that becomes some demands on service and changes in service delivery and things we need to plan for the future.
When you look at the kinds of incidents you're responding to, has that changed since you came to today because of some of the growth we've experienced?
In the 2 years I've been here, I don't appreciate a significant change. Our primary bread and butter, if you will, for the Hagerstown Fire Department is responding to fire calls and other types of calls related to fire services. We do provide service for emergency medical services as a first response agency. So the ambulance, we respond with the ambulance if needed on certain types of calls. One of the things I can tell you is changing for us is the technical rescue needs of the city. And that's related to, one is the increase in warehouse and industry in the city, heavy machinery, bigger buildings, more opportunity for technical type incidents, and also that brings along more truck traffic, especially on 81 and 70, and a big rig accident is a lot different to handle than a passenger car accident. So we are focusing on growing and expanding our technical rescue service in addition to maintaining the great fire service we provide.
So some of our viewers, and frankly, I don't completely understand what a technical rescue service is. Can you give us some context?
Yeah, sure. So when we talk about technical rescue, we're talking about things like auto accidents where persons are trapped in their vehicle and they have to be cut out. So extrication from vehicles, confined space incidents, hazardous materials incidents. Those could be inside of a building or they could be from a transportation accidents. You have water rescues, you have high angle rescues. Those all fall in the realm of technical rescue incidents, and those are just some of the services we provide, and we're seeing more calls for those types of incidents, the technical rescue calls. So if we're going to change focus, it's just going to be to increase our training and opportunity to provide service in those areas.
In your view, what are some of the major public safety risks that exist in Hagerstown today, and what is the fire department doing to help address those?
Probably the most evident one that we can see just by traveling through town. Hagerstown is an old city, and so we have an aging infrastructure and we have aging buildings. They're built close together, and so we are very fortunate with our fire department response time. We keep fires to the building of origin, area of origin often. We don't have these major building fires like we see in other cities. But that is a public safety risk. It's just the age of the infrastructure and the age of the buildings. Probably another risk for the public safety would be economic impacts that everybody feels throughout the country. About 18% of Hagerstown residents live below the poverty level. And with the poverty level where it's at, it makes it more challenging for people to afford basic services. And so we tend to run more calls in support of those people who have needs for fire rescue service.
So the city has its fire department, the county has its fire department. Can you talk to me about how the two interact, and are there mutual aid agreements that allow you to help them or them to help you?
Yes. So Washington County Division of Emergency Services, that they have a paid fire component. They have paid firefighters and paid EMTs and paramedics. Then you have the Washington County Volunteer Fire Rescue Association, and those are the other volunteer fire companies. DES supplies personnel to work in some of those volunteer stations in Hagerstown. So you got basically three different entities working together delivering the same service. Automatic aid agreements, what those do for us is that when a call is received, they have area cards, or we call them box cards. And so when the address comes up, there's a prescribed set of companies that are dispatched on that call. For example, if the call was in the east end of Hagerstown on Dual Highway just outside the city, even though it's outside the city, Engine 3, which is right there at the city line, Engine 3 would respond, but you'd also get a response from Funkstown, which is Company 10. You may get a response from Mount Etna, which is Station 16. So it starts pointing those resources that are close to the call, even though it may be outside of their jurisdictional boundaries. That's how automatic aid works. And we have a very robust automatic aid system here in the county, and we participate with that. So while we do most of our business in the city of Hagerstown, there are probably about 10 to 12 times a week we may go outside the city to provide assistance under the automatic aid agreements.
In terms of your commitment to the community, what are your targeted response time goals, and how do those compare to your actual performance?
And that's a great question. And we follow a standard, the National Fire Protection Association Standard 1710, NFPA 1710, and that talks about career fire departments and their deployment or response. And what that standard tells us, and we try to meet the standard, it's not a law, but it's best practice, if you will. It says that fire departments for a structure fire, from the time that they are alerted or dispatched, so when the tones ring in the station, there's a window of 80 seconds that the fire department should get out the door. So from whatever you're doing, stop what you're doing, 80 seconds, your wheels should be turning. From the time the wheels begin turning until arrival on the scene, it's 4 minutes. That's the standard for the first engine. And so that's the window we're looking at. So when we look at that national standard and we compare ourselves to it, if we want to get there within a 4-minute response time from the time the wheels begin turning, we beat that almost all the time. We're greater than the 90th percentile. Our average response time to a structure fire in the city is 2.5 minutes. So from the time the tones go off in a station, the wheels start turning, you have fire crews at the door within 2.5 minutes. That is our average.
So obviously it takes a combination of resources to make those numbers. It takes
Absolutely.
it takes fire stations in the right place. Hard to get there in 4 minutes if your fire station's 10 minutes away, right?
That's correct.
It also takes the right number of people. It takes the right amount of firefighting equipment. Talk to me about how you maintain that mix. How do you use those resources to achieve the results you just discussed?
Yeah, sure. So on duty in the city of Hagerstown currently, we have 5 engine companies. Those are pumper trucks. We have 2 ladder trucks, and we have a shift commander, a battalion chief. So we have 8 pieces of apparatus or 8 vehicles, and that brings 16 people to the scene. When I talked about the NFPA 1710 standard, they have what's called an effective firefighting force for low risk hazards. A house fire would be what they consider a low risk hazard, even though we know it's risky. And they say you need to have an effective force is 17. So we're actually 1 short of the standard. So we are have short staffing there. One of the challenges to meet that effective firefighting force, to get enough people on scene to do all the jobs, because firefighting on a house fire, for example, is very task-oriented, and you assign tasks based on the companies. The fire pumper trucks, the engines, they're going to stretch hose and spray water. The ladder trucks, they're going to do search, they're going to do ventilation. Everybody has an assigned role, and you need a certain number of people to carry out all those tasks. And so the automatic aid agreements will bring additional people if we have a fire that is a working fire and we need more help. Automatic aid brings those numbers, just the same way as if the fire is outside of the city, we would respond out and help fill out those numbers. The challenge is the location of the fire stations, as you mentioned, and trying to keep those response times down. I could tell, historically, if you look at fire station locations, we started out before horse-drawn apparatus. Firefighters, the firemen of the day, they would hand pull these carts. Well, they could only pull them so far. You had a limit on physical ability. So your fire stations were much closer together. And if you look at old Hagerstown, where the fire stations are downtown, you could almost throw a rock and hit those old stations. You got Station 1 there on South Potomac. You had Pioneer Truck Company just around the corner on Franklin. You had Antietam over on Summit Avenue. They're all real close. As we got into horse-drawn apparatus, and Hagerstown's first horse-drawn apparatus came in the late 1800s, 1890s, they started pulling the fire wagons, and they could start moving them further out. And then fire engines, motorized apparatus, first one was bought in 1911 for first Hagerstown hose. 1911 was the first motorized, and as you got motorized trucks, they could go further away from the core. The newest fire station in Hagerstown is Station 3, and that station was built in the 90s. It's already 30 years old. And when you go backwards, the oldest station being Station 1 on South Potomac, that's an 1800s model station. So it's 300 years old if you think about the age when you start adding in there 200 plus years, closer to 300. We haven't built a new fire station in the city in over 30 years, and our city boundaries continue to grow. As they grow, we are responsible for those service demands at the corporate boundaries. So we will need to look at building new stations to cover those growth areas to continue to provide the service to meet the expected standards that the business dictates for us.
Excellent. We have a lot more questions, but we need to take a break right now, so please stay with us. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back. We're once again here with John DiBacco, Chief of the Hagerstown Fire Department.
Yes, sir.
Chief, in every business that you talk to, there are recruiting challenges. You have to not only recruit paid people, you have to recruit volunteers. Talk to me about how that process works.
Well, it's two distinctly separate processes because people are looking for different things. Obviously, we have volunteers who are looking to make a career out of it, and they're looking for a career job. And we have volunteers who truly want to volunteer for their community, and they have other careers and they're not interested in working for the fire department. The trick is to find people who are willing to give, for the volunteer side, who are willing to give their time. It is a large time commitment to come to the training and get the time in at the station because you're required to be there for a certain amount of time. One of our target areas is currently with the high school program. The technical high school here in Washington County, they have a fire program for fire and EMTs. They also have a law enforcement program and some others. And so we work closely, the Hagerstown Fire Department works closely with the technical high school. We provide instructors, we provide advisors, equipment, they use our training facilities, and we give them the opportunity for the students to join one of our volunteer fire companies in the city, and they get to ride with their training. They can come and they can ride on calls in the city as a volunteer firefighter. That is a recruitment tool that we really ramped up here in the last 4 to 6 months, and so far it seems to be paying dividends. We've had 7 new members, volunteer members, join at the Antietam Fire Company on Potomac Avenue. Recruit firefighters are a little bit different to try to attract. When I started in this business over 40 years ago, looking for a career job, they were difficult to find. Part of the difficulty was lack of internet. Now, all the jobs are easily found, and if you are willing to pick up and relocate, you can find a job anywhere in the country as a firefighter. It just depends where you want to be. That's a good thing for people wanting to go into this line of work, but it's also difficult for fire departments to attract people to want to come to work. You have to have something for them to want to come and work for you. So, as I mentioned before, with the changes in growth in Hagerstown, that becomes attractive because it's becomes a vibrant city with growth opportunities, and that tends to want to draw people to work for you. It's an urban core city, a lot of business for the fire department, and that tends to drive younger people in who want to work for you. Some of the things that are a little bit more challenging for us is that when you come to work here, we are looking that you already have your basic firefighter training, and so we're looking for people who get that training outside and come here. Now, we do provide a training academy, but it's for people who already have a firefighter 1, and we train them to what they call a firefighter 2 level. That's where the volunteer comes in, where if we can attract those volunteers who already have the training, it helps come in. So it's good in one way. It shortens the training period or training time. The turnaround from getting them hired to getting them in the seat on the truck is shorter because they come to us with training, but it makes it a little bit more difficult because we put a barrier up. So if we look at recruitment in a general sense, if we're looking at increasing diversity, if we're looking at whether it's community diversity, more women on the job. We have one female firefighter in the department now. If we're looking at that kind of attraction, we don't necessarily find those groups in the volunteer service traditionally. There are some, but not many. And there's a lot of departments who are competing for those.
So do you find that the volunteer opportunities give you a stream of potential paid firefighters after they get out of the technical high school, or, you know, whatever the case may be?
We do. We think that's going to benefit us in that. And this last group, we just recently hired 4 firefighters last year. They were all, it's interesting because, as I said, there's plenty of jobs for people who are firefighters. And it's not unusual for, and we get into turnover, we talk about the recruitment, retention, and trying to prevent turnover once you invest the money in somebody. But it's so easy to want to leave a job and go to another job. It depends what they're looking for. Maybe move closer to home, a different type of fire service, more busy, less busy, different services offered. But the last 4 firefighters we hired, one of them worked for a career department in the region, and they left that to come back to work for us, which I think is it says a lot about our department. He left a good job, a well-paying job, at a bigger department to come to Hagerstown to work because he desired to work here. Another person we hired previously worked for us, moved away for family, and they were coming back to the area, and he called and said, I'm interested in coming back. And he went through the process, and we rehired him. So he was a former employee who came back to work for us, which says a lot. And the other 2 firefighters have already had experience as active volunteers in the area. So we know where we're attracting from, and we know where we're successful, and we'll continue to do that. The challenge is, if we're looking to add to that recruitment diversity, we have to open the pool of candidates up a little bit wider with a bigger focus, and that's just some conversations we've had. And I think if you would talk with Washington County Division of Emergency Services, I think they're looking at the same thing. How can they increase their diversity of their candidate pool? Just good for the department, and it's good for the community.
What outreach or recruitment programs have you found to be most successful for Hagerstown Fire Department?
So far, the most successful is getting out and talking with the students. Now, the studies will tell you, talking to high schoolers to come to the fire service, if you're waiting until they're in high school, you've waited too long. Mm-hmm. What they're telling us now is you should be talking with kids in the middle school age, junior high, middle school age range, to get that interest sparked in public service. We have not been focusing on that grade school yet. We work, and we can talk about, we work with kindergarten, first and second graders on a regular basis, and then the high schoolers at the technical high school. So we spend a good bit of time face-to-face communications, trying to engage them, getting people who have already shown some interest, and offering some incentives to come volunteer or maybe be a career firefighter.
From your perspective, where is the staff today? Are you staffed appropriately? Would you like to see more volunteers, more paid? And I know there's budget issues here, so we won't get into that.
If I had all the money, which we don't. So Hagerstown Fire Department, we're a very, very good fire department, and we have, when you say we have minimum staffing, we have 2 persons on a truck. That unfortunately is well below minimum. The national standard is 4 firefighters per truck, and we're running 2. So if you look at our roster, what we're funded for in the budget, if you want to talk budget, we have 79 positions. Currently we have 2 vacancies, and that's not bad. You lose 1 or 2 people a year, either they retire or they have other opportunities and they leave the department. So we have 2 vacancies currently, and in the spring we'll look to hire a couple new firefighters. But if we could wave a magic wand and do staffing, we would increase the number of staffing on the trucks, and that's a function of more firefighters or a safer environment to work in. It's hard to do the job with 2 people on a fire truck when the standard is 4 per fire truck. but that's a huge budget tiger to tackle. Hagerstown started as a volunteer companies, probably in the 50s. Towards the 60s, they started putting paid members. They had what they called driver only. So they had a paid driver in the station, and that person would get the truck out, and then the volunteers would come to the fire, or ride on truck or come to the fire. And they were driver only until the early 2000s, and they made the switch to put the second career member on. So a big history of fire service in Hagerstown, but really only for the last 20 years maybe, we've had 2 paid firefighters on a truck. And we have a long way to go to get where we need to be. But the guys do a great job with what they got. But we could do more with more. But that's a budget challenge that everybody has.
Understood. So, I mean, it sounds like from a retention standpoint, you're in pretty good shape. If you only lose 2 a year, that's not horrible, right?
That is not horrible. And so, just to expand out on that a little bit, our department here, I believe, is a desirable place to come and work. We're an urban department. We're a busy department. We do firefighting. We talk about service delivery. We do firefighting. We don't do ambulance transport. We don't have ambulances in the station. And for some people, that's attractive. They don't want to ride an ambulance, and that's attractive. As a young person, you may not have a problem getting up and driving an hour and a half to go to work. And you come and work and you enjoy your time. And then as you get older, you may get married, you may have children, and that hour and a half drive with the family commitments becomes longer. And as I said earlier, there are a lot of places that are hiring. I can take my skills and my certifications and apply to a closer fire department and be working in the same type of job, but closer to home.
Right.
Money's about the same. Money's not that crazy different from all these fire departments. And so you lose people from time to time, understandably, because of that. But overall, our retention is pretty good for this department.
Well, I was going to ask you about the money piece. From a pay and benefits perspective, how does Hagerstown stack up against other departments in the county or in neighboring counties or neighboring municipalities?
Right. So, great question. We just recently went through contract negotiations with the local firefighters union, 1605 for the city of Hagerstown. And part of that contract negotiation, part of the work that we had to do was compare compensation with the area and the region. Hagerstown fire pay is no less than midpoint, and in most cases comparing, it is near the top. There are a few places that pay a little bit more. When we talk about annual salary, they may pay a little bit more, but it's very competitive regionally, and Hagerstown does well. One of the most difficult things to talk about with younger firefighters, and I know I didn't think about it when I was a new firefighter, it's not only the money in your paycheck, it's the benefits that go along with it that aren't in that paycheck or go into your bank account. And when you look at health care benefits, when you look at retirement benefits, when you look at those sort of things, Hagerstown's really an attractive place to work if you can consider the benefit package as part of the total compensation. Unfortunately, when we get into compensation discussions, people only talk about the salary numbers and not necessarily the
total compensation
package that goes with it. But Hagerstown does a nice job with the benefits package.
So there are certainly evolving standards, there are evolving hazards, there are evolving elements in our community. When we come back from this next break, I want to talk about those and how you're focusing on those with training and other initiatives. So stay with us, and you stay with us as well. We'll be back with more of the Flip Side after this break. Welcome back. Once again, we're here with John DiBacco from the Hagerstown Fire Department. Chief, from a training perspective, as I said just before the break, I'm sure there are evolving hazards, there are evolving challenges. talk to me about training for Hagerstown firefighters, not just the initial training, but certainly talk about that, but also the ongoing training and development.
Sure. And so I mentioned earlier the technical rescue, and we talked about confined space, hazardous materials, rope rescue, trench rescue, those sort of things. All those components, all those specialties require additional training. And so in addition to the training that we're doing for routine firefighting, I say routine, but firefighting skills, stretching hose, throwing ladders, spraying water, some of the things you would think of basic, we have to build in training time for the technical rescue type training. We're very fortunate we have the equipment and facilities to do that, and it's just a matter of getting the time in the calendar to get all these things done. As you expand your services, in addition to delivering the service and running the daily calls, you have to find a training time. And we are proud that we commit daily to a training exercise of some nature. Every day is a training day at the fire department.
Excellent. From the perspective of health, safety, and wellness, obviously burning things often give off toxic fumes. How do you ensure that your firefighters are protected against those type of elements?
So cancer prevention is a very important topic for the fire service now. One of the number one killers of firefighters is occupational cancer. And so we have some programs here in the city. Some are just starting up since I've been here now 2 years. Programs that I kind of pushed forward and finally we're getting them going, and some they've had in place. One of the easiest things is the firefighting gear that they wear. And obviously going into a burning building or that environment, the gear gets contaminated. One of the things that we have done is made available a second set of gear. So when you come back from the fire, that first set that's dirty can be washed or laundered. We have special equipment for that that can be cleaned and decontaminated. And while that's being cleaned, they have clean gear they can wear. So we make sure we provide adequate gear so they don't have to wear dirty gear, if you will. Some of the other things that we are doing, we are getting a new fire engine that goes in service on Friday of this week. It's actually going to Station 1 on South Potomac Street. One of the things that I requested to be built into this truck is we call it a warm water discharge. Basically, one of the outlets on the pump we can connect a garden hose to, and the way the water is routed around the engine from the tank, it will discharge warm water. And so when the firefighters come out of the fire, we can use a garden hose and spray them down. We can use a brush, a mild soap solution, and we'll have warm water to give them we call it a gross decon, take off the big stuff from their gear. It also gives them some water. They can wash their face, wash their hands. Some of the biggest areas of contamination for firefighters are areas around the neck and around the wrist. And that's where we're not covered real well. So when they come out of these fires, we encourage them to wash and wipe down. And that's just another tool that we have to help with cancer prevention. And probably the third one that I would mention is a blood screening test that looks for 50 plus different types of cancers. We're going to be starting that this year. All of our employees during their annual medical physical will have a blood draw. That blood draw will be screened. This is a national program. They were using it in Tidewater, Virginia when I left down there very successfully, and it identifies markers in the blood for cancer, which will prompt you to have, if you have a positive marker, prompt you to have further evaluation. So we're excited about that. So we have some preventative measures ongoing, and we have some that are getting ready to be rolled out.
It's not just about physical health, though, either. It's also about behavioral health and mental health. I mean, sometimes you might see things in a fire, tragedies to people, that are hard to deal with. How do you help your firefighters through those elements?
Sure, and I wouldn't be doing it justice if I didn't expand a little bit further. In addition to the fires, and there can be horrible injuries and see horrible things with fire-related injuries, but our firefighters also respond on every shooting, every stabbing, every vehicle accident, every cardiac arrest call in the city. They respond with those ambulance crews. And I like to tell officials when I'm speaking with them, if you see a news story about a mass shooting or a shooting incident, invariably you're going to see a fire engine or a fire truck in that picture. Our firefighters are there dealing with it, and you're absolutely right. Seeing some of the worst things that you could see. I've been a paramedic for 43 years, and it's just unimaginable things that I've seen that I would never have seen otherwise, being in this job. What we have in Hagerstown, we have what's called a peer support team. It's Hagerstown Fire Department based, but we offer our services to the region. So we have gone into Franklin County, up towards Greencastle, to assist them out into the county with the county volunteer departments and Department of Emergency Services as well. It's a peer support. There are other firefighters who have volunteered to go through special training to help work with people who may have been on a critical incident and has experienced one of these calls where something was just absolutely tragic, and to help them debrief. It's a debriefing afterwards. So we have the peer support team in-house, very proud of them. They do great work. And then we have other resources. The International Association of Firefighters, they have a facility near Baltimore. It's an in-residence facility to assist firefighters, and that's available to our members as well. And of course, there's different programs with employee assistance and things that the city provides benefits for, that you can get counseling and if you need somebody after that. But the immediate one for us is the peer support teams that we have internally.
As I see videos of firefighters responding or dealing with the different elements that they have to deal with, there's also an issue of physical fitness and cardiovascular fitness. I couldn't do what they do, and I can't imagine how heavy that gear is that they have to wear. But you know, if it's keeping you alive from the heat, I would imagine it's pretty heavy.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about that.
So physical fitness or firefighters is a very important area, cardiovascular fitness in particular. So we'll talk about physical fitness and what we do for cardiac health in Hagerstown. All of our stations have some form of physical fitness equipment in it, whether treadmills, free weights, weight machines, and all of our employees are encouraged for daily physical activity. Take time to take care of yourself. We also, as a benefit for our employees, the new Hagerstown Field House, we pay for memberships there, and we have an agreement with them, and they were generous to give us a discount rate, and we have memberships there. So during the workday, a fire crew could go over and work out. Now, if they get a call, they need to leave,
right?
But they can go to the Hagerstown Field House and work. And we try to make as many options available as possible for our firefighters to get physical fitness time in during their workday, because it's that important. On the cardiovascular fitness, we all receive annual medical physicals. That's it's an NFPA standard. So we have an annual medical physical that tells the doctor will determine if we're fit for duty. And there's a list of criteria that are specific for firefighting. And if you're not fit for duty, then you get a prescription for whatever it is, whether you have blood pressure problems, whether you have weight loss problems, whether you have some other problem, musculoskeletal problem. You have to get those fixed to be cleared for full duty. But we have fitness for duty exams yearly. Part of those, for all firefighters who are age 40 and older, they get a cardiac stress test. So they go to Hagerstown Heart, the facility on Howe Road, and they get a cardiac stress test. And then we do, all of our firefighters get a cardiac CT as well. So they do a CT scan of the heart, and they're looking for calcium buildup in the arteries. So we take the cardiac health very serious. We provide opportunities for exercise daily, and then with the medical physicals and screening, we provide those type of assessments.
Let me go off script for just a minute.
Sure.
And ask, what does the day in the life of a firefighter look like?
Well, for us, they start work at 7:30 in the morning, and it's a 24-hour shift. So they work 7:30 in the morning till 7:30 the following morning. Mornings are generally, first thing is your equipment check, your rig check. You want to make sure all of your stuff is there. You do your checkoffs on your apparatus, you check all your equipment, your pumps, make sure stuff's there. You get set for your day. By 9 o'clock, we're rolling into training. So generally there's a morning training session, and most of the time there's an afternoon training session. We can't put everybody in a training at the same time, so we'll split it up. If there are community activities, we're in Fire Prevention Month, so we're doing a lot of school visits. Those occur during the morning. They'll do that. Of course, we get a lunch. We don't have a lunch break, but the guys will have lunchtime just like everybody else would. In the afternoon is either filled with activities such as public events or school visits or exercise time. Of course, we're running calls all through there. There's not a time you don't run calls. And generally, that's up to dinner time. Once you hit dinner time, usually after dinner time, that's your time for the evening. Try to have a little relaxed time. You've had a full day, and the evening's usually up to the firefighter, how they spend it. But they're in the station. They're there till 7:30 the next morning.
Now, the thing you see on TV around fire stations is these firefighters that turn into these amazing chefs that can, is that real, or do they just go down the street to one of the great restaurants, one of the great new restaurants we have in Hagerstown to get their lunch and dinner?
A little both. Some of the best meals I've ever have been firehouse meals, to be honest with you. We've got some amazing people who can do some amazing cooking. Also have had some of the worst meals I've ever had in the firehouse, and those people don't offer to cook very often. But no, we do have some great cooks in the firehouse.
But you have a full kitchen?
We do. Every station has a full kitchen. If they don't bring their groceries in the morning, they have the ability to run to the grocery store, get their groceries for the day. They make one trip out, get their groceries, come back, and they'll cook. But yeah, the stations have a full kitchen. They do at least both meals there. Some amazing cooks. And when you have a good cook on a shift, everybody tends to want to go to that station and eat dinner. So I'd say that's probably about one of the few things that's true or reflective when you see a television show of a firehouse versus real life.
Talk to me about the career path for a firefighter. This man or woman who has decided to join up, maybe they're in technical high school and they go from volunteer to paid. What is the career path for them? What does their career look like at 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, so forth?
Sure. So I'll talk about Hagerstown Fire Department, and I'll talk in general what opportunities out there, because there are other opportunities that we don't offer, but some people may be interested in. So entry level is a firefighter position. That's your basic. You get your education, get your schooling, and you start doing firefighter work. You're riding on the truck, you're going to fires, you're doing the life of a firefighter. Our first promotion in Hagerstown is for a fire lieutenant. Our lieutenants are responsible for shift training. They are basically our training officer for each shift. It takes a little bit more education, professional development to get there. You have to have 4 years of service in a department before you're eligible to take the promotional test. It's a competitive exam. Then the next rank in Hagerstown is fire captain. Fire captains are in charge of the engine house. Again, a little bit more education, experience, certifications, and with that comes the responsibilities of the department. And in Hagerstown, the next level after that is battalion chief, who serves as a shift commander. We also have a fire marshal's office. The fire marshal's office is responsible for doing plans review of new buildings, construction. They're responsible for fire code enforcement and fire inspections. And public education. And so we do have members who do a career on the fire engines or ladder trucks. Then at some point they want to transition, and they apply and move into the fire marshal's office. And it gives them a little different career opportunity, different type of work, but still part of the fire department. Outside of Hagerstown Fire Department, there are a lot of opportunities for emergency medical services. If a young person is interested in being an EMT or paramedic. For example, Community Rescue Services here in Hagerstown, they have paid personnel. And Washington County Department of Emergency Services, Division of Emergency Services, they have paid EMTs, paramedics, and firefighters. And so they may have different career opportunities there. But for Hagerstown, over the span of your career, you can be perfectly happy and do a great job as a firefighter for your years of service, and some people desire to promote up, and some people desire to work in the public education side of it. So a little bit of everything.
Excellent. We have a lot of questions still to come on apparatus, stations, technology, but first we're going to take one more break. Stay with us. We'll be back with more of the Flip Side after this. Welcome back. We're here once again with John DiBacco from the Hagerstown Fire Department. John, let's talk about apparatus, life cycle. What is the status, what is the condition of the apparatus in Hagerstown? I know you're getting a new engine here in a couple days.
So I was very fortunate when I came in. The previous fire chief set up a replacement program, and our trucks are actually in really good condition and new. The industry standard is that you replace a fire pumper engine at about 15 years and a ladder truck at about 20 years. And so we're well under that for our first lines. We have 5 frontline engines, pumpers, and 2 aerial ladder trucks. Then we have reserve apparatus. We have 3 engines and 1 ladder truck. And we're in really good condition right now for our apparatus. The challenge is the cost. I mentioned we're getting a new engine that's going in service on Friday this week at First Hagerstown Hose on South Potomac. That engine costs $990,000, just under $1 million. And that was purchased about before I was here, so it has been purchased 2.5 to 3 years ago. The industry, fire service industry for building fire trucks has a very long turnaround. And so what I tell my city administrator and the city officials is that if you would hand me a check today and tell me to buy a fire truck, we would not see that fire truck for about 3 years until it comes in. It's not like going down to the car dealership and driving off the lot. It takes a long time. And that's a national problem. It's been discussed as high as levels as Congress with congressional hearings. The delivery of fire apparatus in this country is behind. We're fortunate that our trucks are in great condition. The challenge is to keep planning for purchasing. So I should be buying a fire engine now this year, this coming budget year, because I won't see it for over 3 years. And in 3 years, my oldest trucks now that are frontline will be approaching that time period where they need to be replaced. So it is a planning process, and we need to stay in front of that. That's just part of the industry we're in.
So that also means that you're 3 years behind on technology, because the fire truck you bought 3 years ago, obviously you think about 3 years ago and the technology changes with AI and
Right.
How important is technology in firefighting?
So, and that's a great point about the age of the trucks. This truck we're getting this week, we placed the order about 3 years ago. They bought the chassis over a year ago, and so we have a 2024 chassis, but we're not taking delivery till the end of 2025. So we lose about a year of life off of it, right?
Right.
And the technology is the concern because things change pretty quickly with that. For the fire service, technology is changing frequently. Artificial intelligence is probably one of the game changers for us now. That's coming into play with about everything we do. Everything from dispatch to developing policies, creating exams. It's just about in everything we do. The other area of technology that we have to stay up on is using GIS, a Geographical Information System. And that's becoming more important now as the city's expanding the corporate boundaries, and we're trying to determine where's the best placement for new fire stations. So we need to not only plan for new expenses and purchases, but we also need to predict where the growth is going to be and also be able to model out and determine where our demand for service is so we get them in the right spot. And that's the tricky part, is trying to figure out where we're going in the future. But the technology that's evolving is allowing us to analyze that data pretty quickly and pretty, I would say, safely and accurately.
What are the next things that you think are priority in terms of budgetary requirements? You mentioned that we may need to order a new fire truck for 3 years down the road. What are the other things that you feel are on the cusp of being needed?
The drumbeat that I have all the time, and this doesn't change, it was the same in Norfolk when I was the chief there and here, is that you need to have up-to-date infrastructure and facilities. So fire station facilities, and as I mentioned, our newest fire station is 30+ years old. That's the one on Eastern Boulevard. Our other ones are 50, 70, couple hundred years old. Beautiful stations, great history, not functional with today's fire trucks. Everything's getting bigger. When I started in the fire service in the 70s, everybody slept in the same room. Today's world, we have individual sleep rooms. That's a change. That takes a different type of structure. The fire trucks are bigger. The technology on the fire trucks is different, more electronics, less emission issues, but more electronic and technical issues. So we need to spend and plan on infrastructure, new fire stations. We're doing well with the apparatus, and the next part is people. We really need to look at the service that we're delivering and try to figure out how to properly staff to have that effective firefighting force, especially with the decline in volunteerism, how we can have enough people on duty to handle any emergency that's thrown at us.
Okay. Let's talk about budget for a second,
Sure.
because that's a natural segue. How is Hagerstown Fire Department funded, and what budget pressures keep you up at night?
So funding comes from taxes. We're almost 100% of our operating expenses are from taxes. There is some, it'd be a little bit more complicated for me to get into, but some bonding issues that the city will do bonding for certain projects, capital improvement, but our operating budget comes almost exclusively from taxes. We do not currently, are not currently working with any types of grants. As far as budget pressures that keep me up at night, I would say that maintaining or staying within the operating budget, because we begin the fiscal year and we have our targets. We have a pretty good plan where we're spending, but stuff happens. And the example I would give you is overtime budget. We know approximately how much money we're going to spend on overtime, and we budget that money. We need overtime for training, for sending people away, for bringing people in for training, those type of expenses. People get sick, they take their earned leave. We have to cover their shifts. We have to have people in the seats on the fire truck, so there has to be overtime. The thing that becomes a challenge with, keeps you up or worry about it, is the overtime. I told you we have 2 vacancies, so we have to cover those positions, and that can result in overtime. I currently have 1 member who's deployed with the military. He's on a long-term deployment, so you have to figure those in if you have military members who are going to be away from the job serving their country. And I have a couple members now who are on long-term medical, and so they're away. And when you're doing your budget planning and you're thinking about overtime, which is an important part of our budget, it's hard to predict or anticipate how many people are going to be on long-term leave or get called up for active duty, or may pick up and leave the job during the year. So we do pretty well staying within our operational budget in all areas, but I know the overtime, we talk a lot about that. Often it's a daily conversation in the office about where we're spending our limited overtime bucks.
We have about a minute left, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question. For our viewers that are sitting in their homes tonight, what are 3 practical things that every household in Hagerstown can do to reduce their fire and medical risk?
Sure, and I could make this quick and to the point, and since we have limited time. 1, if you don't have smoke alarms, get smoke alarms, smoke detectors in your house. Hagerstown Fire Department will provide them free, and will install them at your residence.
In the city limits?
In the city limits, if you're a city resident. Smoke alarms, make sure you have those. That will save your life in the event of a fire. Take care of your property, routine maintenance, prevent electrical hazards, storage, especially flammable liquid storage. Be cautious with that. And the final thing is learn some life-saving skills. Learn CPR. It's hands-only CPR. It's not, you don't have to worry about blowing into another person, a mannequin, or mouth-to-mouth breathing. Now it's hands-only CPR. Learn a life-saving skill, such as CPR, stop the bleed. Things can save your life or somebody else's life should you be injured.
Chief, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for
having me. It's been
me.
very informative, and hats off to the Hagerstown Fire Department. They clearly do amazing things.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for tonight. We hope you will like us on Facebook, follow us on X, and send us your comments and suggestions to feedback@flipsidetv.com. That's feedback@flipsidetv.com. Most importantly, join us again next week for another visit to the Flip Side. Good night.